bodied form. Okay, here we go. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Padajana Yashodanandana Padajana Ranjana Nandana Padajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar to Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parujikacharya Ashtotar to Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Page 251. Oh, not in that book. Text 524. 524. You look at the top. You got it? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 30th day of December 2020 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 5 entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness, text 24, page 251 in hardback version. Yontak sukontaramas tatanta jyotirevayaha Sayogi Brahmanirvanam Brahmabhuto Digacchati Yontak Sukontaramas Tatanta Jyotirevayaha Sayogi Brahmanirvanam Brahmabhuto Digacchati Yontak Sukontaramas Tatanta Jyotirevayaha Sayogi Brahmanirvanam Brahmabhuto Digacchati. Yontak Sukontaramas Tatanta Jyotirevayaha Sayogi Brahmanirvanam Brahma bhuto digacchati. Yaha, one who, antaha sukhaha, happy from within, antaha aramaha, actively enjoying within, tata, as well as antak jyotihi, aiming within, eva, certainly, yaha, anyone, saha, he, yogi, a mystic, brahma nirvanam, liberation in the supreme, brahma bhutaha, being self-realized, adigacchati, attains. Translation. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the supreme, and ultimately he attains the supreme. Purport. Unless one is able to relish happiness from within, how can one retire from the external engagements meant for deriving superficial happiness? A liberated person enjoys happiness by factual experience. He can, therefore, sit silently at any place and enjoy the activities of life from within. Such a liberated person no longer desires external material happiness. This state is called Brahma Bhuta, attaining which one is assured of going back to Godhead, back to home. Om Jnana Timurandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chukshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Shri Parampara. So again, Krishna is speaking about the joy that comes from practicing Bhakti Yoga. We had these very two important verses, 21 and 22, in which he said, a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys a limited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. Yuktatma. Brahma Yoga Yuktatma. He's hooked up to the Supreme Brahman. That's text 21, and the Supreme Brahman is Krishna. And then in text 22, Krishna describes the problem with sense gratification. We're enjoying beings. We're either going to try to enjoy the external energy or the internal energy. That's our choice. Most people don't even know they have a choice. They're simply absorbed in the external energy, life after life after life. So Krishna describes those pleasures that come from the contact of the senses with the sense objects are the sources of your misery. So that presents a real dilemma. Because if that's the only way I know how to enjoy, I have to resign myself to suffering. Right? I'll enjoy as much as I can, knowing full well that there'll be suffering. So that's not a very happy prospect. And besides being the sources of misery, they're adyanta, they have a beginning and an end, and that's part of what makes it miserable. You're left with the desire for it again, but you can't enjoy it right away, and then you have to get the money, or your senses are too blown out. So they have a beginning and an end, and so the wise don't take their pleasure there. And then he says, in order to become happy in this world, you have to be able to tolerate the urges of the senses. That's in the text 23. And now again, he's speaking about how the mature bhakti yogi is enjoying within. Everything is antar, and antar sukha, antar arama, and antar jyoti. Now jyoti also means illumined within, right? Enlightened. So, if one can find his happiness within, and Prabhupada in this very illuminating small little purport here, he says that if you can't find a happiness within, you have to look without, and if you look without, then you're in the clutches of Maya. So you have to be able to contact that happiness within yourself. A liberated person enjoys happiness by factual experience. So really, liberation means, according to the Bhagavatam, mukti. Mukti is a word for liberation, right? There's another variant of moksha. You'll find it most ways. So mukti. What's the definition? Do you have any idea? Did you say liberation in the Supreme? All right, let's leave that for that. That's not wrong. According to the Bhagavatam, second canto, there's a little table of contents in chapter 10, the last chapter of the second canto, and they describe the 10 subject matters that will be covered in the Bhagavatam, and one of them is mukti, liberation. And he gives a definition of what it is. Muktir hitpa anyata rupam swarupena vyavastiti. So let's unpack it. Mukti is hitva, giving up, anyata, other rupas, forms. And swarupena, in your actual eternal form, your swarup, the form of the soul, eternal form that we've forgotten and is covered. Swarupena vyavastiti, and to be situated once again in your actual swarup. That's mukti. So, what are all these other forms? We're in one right now. And even in this one lifetime, we've been through so many forms. Childhood, boyhood, like that. So we're constantly changing. That's called Bhava Sagara. Sagar is ocean, and Bhava means change. And of course the changes are basically summarized in birth, old age, disease, and death. There's another way of describing the changes that everyone goes through, even the lower animal and everything created. And it's called Shadvichar, means six stages. Birth, then growth. Everyone who has a child knows that that's the main thing that's happening with the child. Every day they're growing out of their clothes, they're measuring, right? They're growing. So growing, birth, growth. And then at a certain point, you reach maturity and you stay in that more or less unchanged for a while. At least there's changes going on, but you're not growing anymore, at least obviously. So that's called remaining. And then at that point, normal material life is you have byproducts, meaning children or offspring for animals. So you get offspring, and then you continue. Then there's a deterioration. So there's birth, growth, staying, byproducts, deterioration, and death. That's 6. That's the 6th one. And this goes on for everything, every organism, every living being. So now that's not a very happy prospect. You during the time of your life, you develop so many attachments and so many desires to enjoy, but as time goes on, that's taken away from you, the relationships are broken, and gradually your very vehicle for enjoyment, the body, is just a source of pain and depression, and finally you just give it all up and start over again. And that's material life. It's a reformatory. So here's an alternative reality. If you can find that source of pleasure within, and we know here from this chapter and other chapters and from philosophy that Krishna is in there, right? The super soul is there, and if we're advanced bhaktas, we can see Shyama Sundar in the heart. So he's the reservoir of pleasure, right? He's always full of bliss, and he's perfectly willing to share it with us. That's what we were doing in the spiritual world. We just have to regain our position as humble servants and take pleasure in Krishna's pleasure. This is what it means to be a bhakta, to find one's pleasure in Krishna's pleasure. Now listen to the logic behind this. How can we break out of this trap of being allured by these flickering maya sukhaya, illusory happiness, and life after life, even in human beings, allured by that, and then cheated by maya, because it's flickering happiness that leaves us unsatiated and leaves us bound to this world, and without any knowledge, we should have committed sin and lose the human form of life, and just, how can we break out of that? By knowledge, by coming in contact with the real knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita, and the example given by great devotees. So what do they teach us? Well, Prabhupada, the method, Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya, and he gives this method of yoga that very quickly you can begin to access that reservoir of pleasure within you by getting in touch with Krishna, contacting Krishna. That's what yoga means. It's through the sound, especially the holy name. The holy name of Krishna is what is that verse? Part of the Kevalashtaka. There's a wonderful 8-verse prayer put into a poem. The last verse says, Trudi Kritya Jagat Savam Rajate Sakalopari Chidarandamayam Shuddham Hare Nama Kevalam. The holy name, it makes the world appear like bits of straw upon the ground. Resplendently it reigns supreme, divinity and sound. It's filled with transcendental bliss and peerless purity. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. It's a very nice poem. So the holy name itself is Krishna. That we have to have faith. We haven't realized that yet, but we know that if you just chant it, it definitely transforms your consciousness, right? That we know, for the better. So we have faith, hearing the great souls and having a little inkling of it when we really get absorbed in japa or in a kirtan, a beautiful kirtan, get absorbed. There's a natural joy there. That's why, people gather by the hundreds and the thousands, devotees, to just chant hours, get really absorbed. Because there's a happiness there. And just that same mantra over and over again. It's not hackneyed. So that's telling us there's a reality there, and that should be building our faith, and it does build a faith for those who are sincere. So, but we're told that in the final analysis, there's a whole world that opens up, the whole spiritual world. Even though we're in this world, we can be simultaneously conscious of our relationship with Krishna. If you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and engaging within our heart, within our consciousness, in that relationship, which is filled with constant happiness and bliss. And whatever is going on outside, we can be sitting alone in a room or on the bank of the Ganges or the Yamuna, with our little beads there, and experiencing all kinds of wonderful variety of happiness from within. That's what's being described here, in kind of a code form. Anta sukha, anta arama. Arama means, what did the Prabhupada say? Actively enjoying within. So they're kind of synonymous. There's an overlap there. But arama is even deeper, sukha. And within, aiming within or illumined within. So this is the Brahma Nirvana. This is the first reference to this phrase, Brahma Nirvana, and we're going to see as the chapter concludes, there's a few more verses. He repeats this phrase again and again. We'll see it again in the next verse. And 26 also talks about Brahma Nirvana is there. So we'll find it. What is this Brahma Nirvana? Now, Nirvana is a word that is well known in relation to the Buddhists, right? And probably I'll never, some of these things stick out in these lectures I've been hearing for years. What is Brahma Nirvana? He didn't say Brahma Nirvana. Nirvana. Nirvana means finished. Finished. Everything finished. The material life finished, because the word Nirvana is here in the Gita. It's here there at the end of the second chapter. Krishna uses the same phrase. So what does it mean? Brahma Nirvana means that your absorption in and involvement with the material energy is finished, and that same attention and that same absorption is there in Brahman. And we know that Brahman for us is Para-Brahman, the Supreme Brahman, Krishna, not some impersonal light or something, So that yogi is situated in Brahma Nirvana, and probably liberation in the Supreme. This is his phrase that we'll keep encountering here. That's in the word-by-word meanings. Brahma Bhuta, being self-realized, attain self-realization. Now that Brahma Bhuta comes up again at the end of the Gita, in the 18th chapter. Brahma Bhuta, Prasannatma. Prasannatma means very joyful, naturally joyful. Brahma Bhuta nashochati nakangshati. What you don't do is lament and hanker. You have nothing to hanker for on the material side, and therefore you have nothing to lament for. Lamentation is usually you lost something, or you can't get something that you covet very much. You don't want anything on the material side. You know that's a bankrupt proposition. And you're not hankering for something that you lost, In fact, you're very, very joyful that you've gained. You've gained realization of Krishna, remembrance of Krishna. Krishna's revealed more of his Leela to you and his qualities, That's a source of great joy. And you're not doing it alone. You're with other devotees and, you're happy. Just with very little materially, but a whole lot of wealth spiritually. And it doesn't diminish with age. It doesn't diminish at all if you keep your good consciousness. So this is what he's describing. And without being able to relish that happiness, you cannot remain fixed in Krishna consciousness. That taste, for the holy name and for the deities, for the service, for preaching, for glorifying Krishna, that's really where the taste is. That obviates, it destroys, or it covers all of your material desires. That's the basis of true vairagya. And that's why it said, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, when he was enlightened by Lord Chaitanya, when he went to Puri and converted him into a bhakta, he wrote this verse describing who Lord Chaitanya was. He'd had a revelation. Lord Chaitanya had revealed the 6-armed form. Have you ever heard of that? The Shadbhuja, So then he wrote this verse, and Lord Chaitanya's servant Govinda, he received the verse. It's on the palm leaf, and he immediately copied it on the wall, because he knew when Lord Chaitanya saw it, he would rip it up. Why? Because it glorified him as Krishna, as God. He didn't like that, So, but it was too late. The verse was on the wall, and all the devotees memorized it. So it describes Lord Chaitanya as Krishna and his mission. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga shikshata meka purushak purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya sharira dhari kripamudiyas tamaham prapadye. It's a wonderful verse, very well known. You can learn it. I can help you. I can help you teach it. If you would walk down in this temple chanting that verse, everyone said, "What's getting into Glenn? He's not because your chanting is becoming better." I'm sorry. It's not difficult. Yeah. Anyway, we'll work on it. So Vairagya Vidya. Vairagya, as I mentioned, is renunciation is kind of not exactly what it is. It's dispassion. It's dispassion. Here we are in Southern California. Summer's coming again. You may walk down to Japa on the beach. Down to the beach, and there's some scantily clad whatever. Doesn't attract you at all. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. That's Vairagya. Detachment is, let me run away to the desert. Let me go up to the Himalayas so I don't have to see that. So, much more important, Vairagya. So Lord Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya to teach Vairagya and Vidya. They go together. Renunciation and knowledge. I tell the story, I won't tell it again. But it happens all the time. Once you know, what is the schizophrenic idea back in the early 60s, you may know this. I don't know if you ever smoked cigarettes, but you may have seen the packs. There's always a warning on there, right? The cigarette can be hazardous to your health. It can be very detrimental to pregnant women. Whatever they put on there now. But when they started, it was a simple warning. Smoking cigarettes is hazardous to your health. Well, then why are you selling it to me? Because it's a law. That's why we still want you to buy it. It's because the taste for that becomes very, very powerful. Even today, I see young people smoking. It's incredible to me. They have to get new people smoking because the old ones are dying off from smoking cigarettes. So they have to always get new people. So there's the warning. The idea is that knowledge, in some skewed way, the idea is that the knowledge on the pack of cigarettes is meant to, what? Have you take the cigarette pack and ask for your refund? I don't know what the idea is. If you got the pack in your hand, you bought it. But the idea is that knowledge is meant to deter you from buying it, from smoking it. So better that it be taught to you as in your school without on the pack of cigarettes. It's a little late after that. But the idea is always there. Is if you know the hazards of something that's harmful to you, even though it may appear to be enjoyable, you'll refrain from it. In other words, the higher self will control the lower self. That's the idea. Your intelligence will win out. No, not for me. So the material world is full of things like that. They look like they're enjoyable, but in the end they produce great misery. Just like all this, artificial food and highly processed food that they feed. It's made in a factory. They have these scientists producing, so it grasps your taste buds. It has certain mouthfeel. It's addictive. They want to addict you to a certain kind of food for money, So it's very harmful. It's got all kinds of things and chemicals in there and everything. You can get diabetes, whatever. So, but what do the kids know? You grow up with these things, the cookies and the cakes and the potato chips and everything else. And so the parents don't know. But if the parents know, how bad it is for their kids, if they're intelligent and a little bit moral, they'll feed them salads and try to, not too much junk food. You know what I mean? Knowledge will produce renunciation. This is literal renunciation, tyaga. So, Vairagya Vidya, this passion, not renunciation, and knowledge. Nija Bhakti Yoga, by means of Bhakti Yoga to himself. This is the whole thing. Krishna comes to teach how to be devoted to himself. That's Lord Chaitanya. Nija Bhakti Yoga Shikshart Artam. Artam for the sake of, the purpose of instructing the world in the science of bhakti, characterized by dispassion and knowledge. Nija Bhakti Shikshart Eka Purushak Purana. That one same ancient person, Krishna. Purusha Purana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharidadari. He has assumed the form of Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Kripam Buddhi. He's an ocean of mercy and I take shelter of him. That's the verse. It's a good verse. So that's exactly pertinent to what we're reading today. If we can come to the stage where we're happy within, we're enjoying within, we're illuminated within, we're aiming within, and we're in Brahma Nirvana, means that we're finished with the sense gratification. It's not appealing to us at all, and we're fully absorbed in as many hours of the day as we can in thinking of Krishna, serving Krishna, linking up our senses to Krishna, preaching for Krishna, glorifying Krishna, and enjoying with Krishna's devotees. How? By glorifying Krishna and serving together. Then we'll be on the Brahmabhuta platform. We'll be, on the Nishta platform of devotional service. So this is a very nice verse. And then he goes on describing this Brahma Nirvana state. So you have your phone geared up if someone, because so he also, I think, is hooked up if someone calls in. Tapas, can you hear us? All right. He might maybe.
I can hear you.
All right. So can people call you and then get on and I can hear their questions? That's the goal.
Yeah, if somebody texts in the YouTube, I will let you know.
Okay. All right. All right. Text 25. You ready? Labante Brahma Nirvanam Vishayakshi Nakalmashaha Chinnadvaidha Yatatmana Sarvabhuta Hiterataha. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. There's that Brahma Nirvana again. Purport: only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. And that will become clear in the last verse of this chapter. Prabhupada is quoting that, really. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme. A Krishna-conscious person has no doubt about the supremacy of Krishna. He has no doubt because he is completely freed from all sins. This is the state of divine love. A person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. Temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. I'm going to read that again. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. When a man is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna, he is actually a liberated soul, although he may be in the material tabernacle. Tabernacle means the body. So, very important statement there. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life is in one's forgetfulness of the relationship with the Supreme Lord. And this is, this was one of Prabhupada's great victories and gifts, is that by actually establishing a society based on Krishna consciousness, he showed practically how people can live simply and depending on each other in glorification of Krishna and get their basic needs met and not be disentangled from the whole material craziness of trying to enjoy externally and just becoming exploited and being defeated again and again. So that example he gave, he showed by great effort, establishing a society where people could find a place to live and actually work all day in Krishna consciousness is extremely important, and that's manifested all over the world. In India, there's so many places. You've heard of the eco village, where at great effort, has been established this living in harmony with nature and being very joyful and depending the cows and so forth. That's Prabhupada wanted to do that. So otherwise, the problems in the world cannot be solved because the people are being led by those who are in the lower modes of nature. It's right in the Bhagavatam in the 12th canto, how the leaders during Kali Yuga will become more and more degraded, and they're simply out to exploit the people, not to help them. They don't know, even if they wanted to help them, they don't know how to really help them, and so it's a very dangerous and depressing situation. But Krishna consciousness is so strong because Krishna is all powerful that when there are devotees are really sincere and working together, they can perform what seems like miracles. This whole building of the TOVP and everything around it and going with it is amazing. That the whole society is working together to raise up this wonderful temple. That's going to be world famous, world class. And so the real, because understanding this, that if Krishna is pleased, if he sees us struggling to glorify him and we're sincere, then he gives us the intelligence by which we can perform the service and actually do things that we never thought we could do. He's working. If Krishna is really working through you, then the sky's the limit. You never know. You may meet a billionaire out there who's looking for life's meaning, and he buys a perfection of yoga, and the whole thing changes. Yeah, I'll build you 10 temples. Why not? It all depends on our purity and sincerity, So that's and Krishna's he's emphasizing here the need to get beyond doubts. And as I mentioned, the doubts. They're like demons. This is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Madhusudana, Krishna's name is Madhusudana. One of his names is because he killed a demon named Madhu. So the doubts are like demons in that they undercut our enthusiasm and our faith. The faith is that moving force. It's the foundation of everything. And as soon as you have doubts, because of bad association, because of weak sadhana, whatever it is, those doubts can just suck the energy right out of your Krishna conscious practice, because it all depends on faith, But as you engage in Krishna consciousness sincerely, you get some vigyan, you get some realized knowledge, and that really helps your faith. It says, well, it seems amazing, but I've experienced, by this chanting and serving, there's a definite joy there. There's something there. So I'm going to go with the parampara, because once you find out, it's not, Prabhupada is all glorious, but he also is coming in a line of other glorious acharyas who've experienced these amazing things, and they're telling us it's real, and who are we to doubt them? What do they have to lie about? They're obviously not in it for the money. Everybody you find, there's so much prevarication and lying going on today, but there's always some motive, some exploitative motive. This is the problem with this materialistic society. Is that who's really sincere? Who really wants to help you? They all want to convince you that they want to help you, and then sell you something that may very well harm you. So this causes a tremendous amount of cynicism. Again, going back to the purport to text 10 in chapter 4, where Prabhupada talks, Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha, Manmaya, Mamupasha. That's the text of the verse. And that phrase, Vita, giving up, Raga, attachment, Bhaya, fear, and Krodha, anger. Many in the past have practiced yoga and become purified and attained love for me, Krishna says. So in the purport, Prabhupada, he focuses in on those three words, the attachment, fear, and anger. And he shows how each of them is an obstacle for a certain class of men not to become Krishna conscious. Mostly it's raga. It's material attachment. People are just too involved with that and in the lower modes to get that spark of interest planted. And they just go through their lives and they're suffering like anything. So that's the vast majority. But then there's the impersonalists who are afraid, bhaya, of having a form and a body, because all they know from a body is that it's a source of misery. That much is true. The material body is subject to birth, old age, disease, and death, and the threefold miseries, and therefore we want to get out of it. But what the mistake is that they don't have any faith in the Supreme Lord, who has a Satchidananda body, and that we also have ultimately Satchidananda bodies that are not subject to suffering. That the senses of the spiritual body are sources of pleasure because they're used in serving Krishna. You see? So they don't have any faith in that. They don't have any faith. They want to merge because they want to be the Brahman. They want to be the Supreme. That last snare in Maya. So the fear, that prevents it. And the other side is the frustration and the anger that comes from being cheated again and again and again. Frustration that breeds anger and is ultimately nothing. This is the voidus. Let me just void it all out, So that has to be transcended as well. The doubts can lead you to this voidus conclusion also. But here, he's saying beyond the dualities arise from doubts. Their minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. So this comes up again in the 12th chapter, that one of the things that Krishna emphasizes is doing welfare work. And we know, as Prabhupada explains in the purport and from other sources in all his books, that really the best welfare work is spreading Krishna consciousness. Because look at the standard. You're giving people a chance to begin their path, get on the path, back home, back to Godhead, and end all the miseries. Whereas if you're a good person, you want to help others, feeding or helping the vaccination or whatever. There's a million ways you can do it. That's good, but that's not giving them a chance to end their entanglement in birth and death. You may relieve their food problem, you may give them a little education, but they're still bound up in birth and death. So obviously the greatest welfare work is that which can free them from that. And that's why spreading knowledge is so essential. Because that's how it has to begin. They have to see and become interested in the whole process enough to bring them into the association of devotees. It may happen online, just so that they are able to hear and able to get some good association. So that's the best welfare work. And Krishna says that's a prerequisite. In the 12th chapter, he says, he directly answers Arjuna's question, which is better, the impersonalist or personalist path? He says, worshipping me personally is much better. But even those who are interested in Brahman, impersonal Brahman, it's very difficult. In the end, they'll come to me, provided, that they are able to, that they have work for the welfare of others. If they're just out for their own welfare and they go off alone somewhere, and just try to merge into, then they fall down again. It's completely unnatural. But at least if they're trying to do welfare for others, then they'll, eventually come in touch with a devotee and, get the spark of devotional service. All right, let's go on. Text 26. Kama krodha vimuktanam yatinam yatachetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditapmanam. Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. Again, Brahma Nirvana. Purport: of the saintly persons who are constantly engaged in striving towards salvation, one who is in Krishna consciousness is the best of all. The Bhagavatam 4:22-39 confirms this fact as follows. I've been quoting this verse fairly regularly. I'll just say. Yat parapangaja palasha vilasa bhaktya karmashayang gvatitamunggatayanti santaha tadvannariktamatayo yatayopi ruddha sroto ganastamadanam bhajavasudevam. So this is Sanat Kumar speaking to Maharaj Prithu. Just try to worship in devotional service Vasudev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Even great sages are not able to control the forces of the senses as effectively as those who are engaged in transcendental bliss by serving the lotus feet of the Lord, uprooting the deep-grown desire for fruitive activities. In the conditioned soul, the desire to enjoy the fruitive results of work is so deep-rooted that it is very difficult even for the great sages to control such desires, despite great endeavors. A devotee of the Lord, constantly engaged in devotional service in Krishna consciousness, perfect in self-realization, very quickly attains liberation in the Supreme. Owing to his complete knowledge in self-realization, he always remains in trance. To cite an analogous example of this, Darshana dhyana sangsparshar matsya kurma vihangamaha svanyapatyani pushnanti tataham apipadmaja. By vision, by meditation, and by touch only do the fish, the tortoise, and the birds maintain their offspring. Similarly, do I also, O Padmaja. The fish brings up its offspring simply by looking at them. The tortoise brings up its offspring simply by meditation. The eggs of the tortoise are laid on land, and the tortoise meditates on the eggs while in the water. Similarly, the devotee in Krishna consciousness, although far away from the Lord's abode, can elevate himself to that abode simply by thinking of him constantly, by engagement in Krishna consciousness. He does not feel the pangs of material miseries. This state of life is called Brahma Nirvana, or the absence of material miseries due to being constantly immersed in the Supreme. So this, sometimes, like we have a tend to forget things, and we forget that how simple Krishna consciousness is. The very name Krishna consciousness practically says it all. How to be able to remember Krishna at every moment. It's not easy because we're not used to it. We're used to thinking of a variety of different things, being distracted. So, but if something, you can imagine if something is so, if the very act of thinking of something causes like genuine substantial bliss, then it becomes easier to do that. And you find this is why when you actually read about Krishna and you hear about him and you see the form, if you've even done a little bit of sincere devotional service, you've opened up the channel to appreciate the beauty and the qualities and the power and the glory of Krishna. So that brings to mind the verses at the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita describing why Krishna came as Lord Chaitanya. There's actually an external and an internal reason. The external reason is to spread Krishna consciousness, and we know from Lord Chaitanya's past times how he did that, especially in the early days and when he was in Navadvip and then in his tour and everything. So he certainly did that. But Krishna also had this internal reason, and that's described in one verse. Shri Radhaya pranaya mahima kidrisho vanayaiva svadyo yenad buddhamadurima kidrisho vamadiya saukyam chasa mononobhavatak kidrisham veti lobatad bhavaja sabajana shachigar basindo harindu. So the threefold reason. Krishna's in the spiritual world. It's described in the CC. And he sees a reflection of himself in either the shining floor or a shining pillar, very highly polished pillar. He sees a reflection. And he's incredible beauty. He's stunned at how beautiful he is. Who's seen such beauty like this? But I find that my ability to appreciate the beauty is crippled because I can't appreciate it from the point of my devotees. So he decides, well, let me take the position of my greatest devotee, Radharani, and then I'll be able to understand three things. The glory of her love for me, which I can't understand from my point of view. The glory of her love for me. Shri Radhaya pranaya mahima. Mahima is glory, pranaya is love. Kidrisho vanaya. And the qualities, my qualities, wonderful qualities, that she tastes in a unique way because of her love. The love for Krishna, when it's highly developed, that means that you're appreciating everything about Krishna as completely nectar. You know, his fighting with the demons, his dancing with the gopis and the gopas, and everything becomes completely nectar. So Radharani appreciates him the most because she loves him the most. She's personified love. She's personified prema of Krishna. That's the previous verse in the CC. And that's the second reason. The glory of the love, his own qualities, which she appreciates in this uniquely wonderful way through the lens of her love, if you will. And the pleasure, the unique pleasure and ananda that she's experienced in all kinds of varieties from loving me, from that experience of loving me, and of course feeling my reciprocal love, that loving exchange. So, therefore, Lord Krishna appeared from, how's it go? Saukyam chasam veti loba. Yes, Saukyam chasam manana babada kidasham veti loba tad bhavaja samajani shachi garbasindu haribun. So he took on Radharani's complexion and her bhava, her emotions and her mood, and appeared from the womb of Shachi Devi like the moon once appeared from the ocean when the demons and the demigods churned it. One of the things that came out is the moon. So anyway, that's indicates a very important principle, is that everything about Krishna, his holy name, his qualities, his service, prasadam, the service of devotees, the deities, everything becomes more and more sweet and a source of great pleasure. The more pure we are, the more we advanced in awakening our original love for Krishna. So that's a great inducement. You know, we're already appreciating to some degree, but you can imagine how just, to ratchet that up to the nth degree. It's like you see the great devotees, how Srila Prabhupada would look at the deities, and practically you could see he's communicating, with ardent love and devotion, And we read about, the six Goswamis and many other devotees, how they, their experiences in chanting and all these things. So, that's what this verse is about. Pada Pangata Palasa Valasa Bhaktya. By the devotional service, Bhaktya, they enjoy, Vilas is spiritual pleasure. What are they enjoying? Serving the toes, Palasha, of the lotus feet of the Lord. And that pleasure, that bhakti pleasure, Vilas Bhaktya, Karmashayam Krititamurkriti Yandisanta. Karmashaya means hopes and aspirations for karmic activity, for fruit of activity. It's like knots, gratitam. There's so many knots, plans to enjoy this and build this and do this. It's all udgratiyanti. The knots are all untied or cut like that for the santa, for the saint, for the devotees. On the other hand, rikta matayo means those whose minds are empty of bhakti. That includes the karmis, the yogis, the impersonalists. Although striving, yataya, very much, although api, yataya, rudha sroto ganas, the flow of desires that are always coming into their minds, eventually pull them away. They have to surrender to them. And we have so many examples, great yogis in Bhagavatam who fell down because they saw they heard the dancing Menaka in the forest with Vishwamitra. And who was the other one? I forget. There was a yogi meditating in the Yamuna. He saw a fish copulating. Starts with a what? No, I don't think so. Oh, so Sabri Muni. Yeah, Sabri Muni. So what is that? I mean, come on. We're living next to the beach here, and we're chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. We're holding it together more or less. The poor guy sees a fish and out he comes. It's actually pathetic. So that's why he says Sogata Tamadana Bhaja Vasudevam. So the conclusion, this is near the end of his whole teachings to Prithu, worship Vasudev. Worship Vasudev. He tells Prithu. So this interesting thing, darshana dhyana samsparsha, the idea is that just by thinking of Krishna, by absorbing the mind in Krishna, everything follows from that. You know, Krishna communicates to you, he takes away, the material desires, attracts you to him. That's the whole idea. That's why the name is so important, because we can't see Krishna, but we can hear the name. And if you repeat it here and repeat here and you'll get attracted. Any living entity, any human being especially, of course. And Prabhupada proved it by, coming in the middle of the Kiratas, Hunandas, and these outcasts, outside of the Vedic culture completely. But that was a plus, because I heard him. But he had to leave India, because in India, everyone had their own gods. Well, I have my own god. I'm worshiping this god, that god, Ganesh and all this and that. Or I already know Krishna. My grandma taught me about Krishna. I know about Krishna. But when he came to America, no one knew anything. So he found eventually, some receptive, and they would drank it in, and they actually practiced, and so that's where it took root. And then eventually he went back to India with his dancing white elephants, the devotees from the West, and everyone was like completely amazed and embarrassed. This is, as Prabhupada said, this is our thing. Why are they doing it? That's we should do. So now India is many devotees there. Okay, so we'll complete the chapter on Monday. But there's a couple of minutes. So I'll give you this poem about the holy name. It's really nice. Or maybe there's some questions. Comments?
No questions from YouTube.
Well, that's something. Hare Krishna to you too. Hare Bol.
There are 10 people who are watching now.
I'm sorry?
There are 10 people who are watching.
Okay. I'm visualizing them. 10 people in the class. It was a nice group. Thank you thank you for listening. Please come back again on Monday. So now we're going to hear the Kevalashtaka. This was written by Sri Nilakanta. I don't know if he was a Goswami or not, but he was a very intimate associate of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I don't think he was a disciple, but he was highly respected by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he wrote 100 verses, all ending in this phrase, Harinama eva kevalam, which some of you may recognize as also the last line of Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam. So here they go. Here they are. It says Madaram Madarebyopi Mangalebyopi Mangalam. These are 8 that are picked out. They've become famous as Kevalashtakam. Madaram Madarebyopi Mangalebyopi Mangalam Pavanam Pavanebyopi Harinama eva kevalam. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. I'll just give you the English. From Brahma's realm atop the sky, down to the lowly grass, illusion reigns in Maya Devi's treacherous morass. The truth, the only truth, the name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. He's the Guru, he's the Father, he's the friend most true. And she's the real mother who most kindly teaches you to always chant and hear the holy name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick or in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Lord Shri Hari forever dwells wherever devotees, whose hearts are fixed on him and free of all impurities, uplift their voices high and sing his name in ecstasy. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Alas, what sorrow, what great pain, the worst calamity, for people to forget the holy name of Shri Hari. Although the name's a priceless gem, mere broken glass they see. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Just fill your ears, just fill them with the name of Shri Hari. Just chant the name with all sincerity. Just sing the holy name eternally. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Inspired to glorify the holy name of... It makes this world appear like bits of grass upon the ground. Resplendently it reigns supreme, divinity and sound. Is filled with transcendental bliss and peerless purity. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Inspired to glorify the holy name of Shri Hari, Sri Nilakanta wrote this hymn in Sanskrit poetry. I pray that those who hear this lowly version made by me will chant the holy name of Sri Hari in ecstasy. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. You can learn that one in English. I know everyone's jaw will drop if they hear you singing that.